We are making a cute as a button Valentine ornament today. This is made in pink. My total example's in pink. Or we also have a red one. I'm going to work on the red one today for this. It has a supply list of sideways. Um, 3 decorative buttons. These are your choice. If you're using the red, use red, but for the pink, I use pink. We either have a plaid or a straw. We also have some pearl beads. We have some flower beads. Uh, the size that it takes, these larger ones are too big, but they were in an assorted pack, so I just ended up with those. After that, we need an embroidery needle. We need a 9-inch satin cord for the hanger. White or pink. It says number 6. I use number 8. The 8 beads show up better, and they're not too large. We have some on the stamens here and stamens here. I was also supposed to use a pink or a red bead for my flower centers, and I used a yellow because I liked it better. We have poly silk, which is a polyfill that's really, really soft, and we need just a small amount of that just to give it a little bit of shape. And then we need 5 floss colors, and I have the DMC numbers here for you. And you either need white wool felt, red wool felt, pink wool felt. You need actually white for both of them. Then your choice if you do a red one or a pink one. And obviously you need scissors. For our instructions, I'm gonna just leave that there. Work on top of it. I have printed the design off. You can either try to trace it on your wool felt, which doesn't work as well. I printed it on pick and stitch by Helen, and you can run this through your printer. And I printed the design on here. I have an outline of the heart at the bottom that I drew because this helps you line it up once you get it on here. And this is a water soluble. I guess it's kind of a fiber. It has glue and fiber on it, but both are water soluble. So once you finish your embroidery, we have to soak it in warm water or just hold it in a stream of warm water until all of this is gone. And then we dry it flat between terry towels, and we have to wait till it's completely dry before we can start doing the stitching on our scalloped back. So this is our first step. Peel off the backing and adhere pre-printed sticker to the center of the heart. Okay, this will be my right one. I'm going to use the design to center the heart, then I'm going to trim some of it off because the more of this you are able to trim off, it will just take less time for it to be removed. So, get on my paper. Gonna line this up at the bottom down here of my heart. and it sticks really well. It's just a little harder to get your needle through, but for now I'm just going to trim off what's overhanging so it won't stick to everything it touches. And once we finish our embroidery, we will cut away as much of this that's not stitched down as we can. So okay. It tells us to use a straight stitch for the stems, a straight stitch for the stems, lazy daisy stitch for our flowers and our leaves, a long straight stitch for our sunburst flowers, this one, and for the stamens, there's like 3 of those, and French knots for the buds, which the only thing I think they're calling buds are these 3 dots here, which is what my French knots are on. And add beads as indicated. So for our beads, after we do all the embroidery, we come back and we stitch with a long stitch and a bead, a long stitch and a bead, a long stitch and a bead, all the way around here. And then we sew our button on top of that. You can see my stitches underneath here. So you do all that embroidery before you put your button on. And this one has the 3 stamens, so you do those long stitches before you put your button on, and then this button just sews on. And like I said, you have a selection of buttons. I know in an example it had like a flower one, which I think yes, this one maybe. Yeah, and I might like that better on the red, but I didn't like it as much on the pink, although it does look cute down here with the little stamens on it. So use one of those. Okay. So once we get, I'm going to go all the way through this and then we'll come back and stitch some. After you get all your embroidery, all your beads and everything done here, you put it in a bowl of warm water or under a gentle stream of warm running water until the fibrous stick and stitch is removed. Gently press the heart between a clean, dry towel or a washcloth and lie it flat until it dries completely. It should be okay. I did not do any pressing on mine. As long as you let it dry flat, it's good to go. At that point, we center our heart and we have 2 scallop pieces cut out. It's very important that you leave them in this configuration because if you flip this one over, it's not going to match as well because there's just a little bit of deviation there. So make sure you keep your 2 pieces together like this. And you can actually maybe mark. No, I'll just lay it down and I'll know that's the back. We center this that we've embroidered. Trim this out. Here. And at this point, to get my stitches so perfectly uniform, and they're not completely, but closer than I normally have, I have a stitch guide, which is actually a guide for buttonhole stitch. But because of the way we do this, we don't have to do a buttonhole stitch here. We're just going to do a straight stitch. And what I did was take this and my marker that is removed with steam, Frixion, and I just took this and put a dot at the end of every one of these because you really can't hold this. So I'm going to put a dot here, a dot here, a dot here, a dot here. And you do that all the way around as much as you can around the curves and into here. And that helps you space your stitches. And then if that's not covered, you can remove that with a steam iron. Okay, so after we do that, it's going to look like After we do that, it's going to look like this on the back. We're going to have really long just stitches that go all the way around. At that point, this is what your back's going to look like. You can also see where the scallop beads are just, you use one thread to connect all of those beads because you're putting your back on top of that and it won't be seen. So once we've got our straight stitches around here, we're going to put our beads. And our beads are spaced. I made this little spacer, which helped me a lot. And what you can do is put this on your scallop. And where the purple ends, I put a dot. And I did that all the way around. Just center that on your scallop and put a dot at the end of the thing. And this is where you put your beads. So your beads are uniformly in the center of your scallops and the same distance from the edge. So I think that really helps it look neater if everything is that uniform. So after you do that, and my choice of pink was just as an accent. The directions said for the pink one to use white beads. So I may use white beads for the red one because it's just going to have such a contrast. It's going to look better. But I thought the pink beads look better on the pink. On the white scallops. Okay, so it says using purple guide, and I just made this guide. All you have to do is center one and mark it, and then the rest of them you can just do them with your guide that you did for one, and then they'll all match because the directions didn't have that. Okay. And after the beads, if your marks, you can still see the marks that you made, you can steam those off also. At this point, we are finished embroidering. We are straight stitched around. We have our beads on. We're going to take our satin cord and we're going to fold it in half. And remember, this is the inside of my back. I don't want to flip this over. We're going to take a glue stick and we're going to glue it down in the center here. Okay. And we're going to let that dry for just a minute. I also need to go back to this because when I told you did your straight stitches, your straight stitches need to stop. And I would stop on the straight here because I forgot to do this a second ago. You need to give yourself like a section of this and lightly stuff it. And I mean lightly stuff it. I pulled out an amount that I thought would be good and I tore it in half and I put it in there and it was too much. So I had to take some of it out because you don't want it to be stuffed really fat. And glue this. Okay, by this time, your satin cord has dried enough that it's going to stay where you want it to stay. We're going to put our completed heart. Mine's not glued, so it's not going to stay, which lines up perfectly since it's cut the same direction and everything. Okay. If you're happy with that, and we're going to take this back off. We're going to, and remember what our back looks like. Our back has all of these stitches on it. So we're going to cover all of those stitches and the long threads between our beads with our glue stick. We're going to put glue out to the scallops and everything. We're going to glue him all the way around. And then we're going to put glue on this one on the out to the points. and not really in the center of it, but uh, so everybody's glued this side, everybody's glued this side. And I think it's important that you cover the threads because you've got some really long stitches here on the back. Cover all of those with glue, and that helps hold it together later. In case somebody pulls a bead or something. Okay, so we're going to flip this over. We've got glue here. We've got glue here. We're going to carefully line this up because the glue stick has had time to dry just a little bit. Okay. At this point, we're going to take little clips. They're called clover clips, or you can just use clothespins if you don't have the little clover clips. And we're going to clip each one of these. I brought any clover clips. We're going to clip each one of these, and we're going to let it dry. Reach with the glue sticks a couple of hours probably. Your glue drying will not take as long as your embroidery design drying after you've rinsed the stick off of it. Okay, and that will give you this. You can see that you need to go out to the ends of the wool so it can't be separated, and because without stitching it, and I actually think it looks better not stitched because you've already stitched this one. But this is really cute. I enjoyed it, and I made the pink one because I liked it better than the red one. Okay, so we're going to do some embroidery now. We're going to do some of the stem stitches, and I have the floss and a holder here. I also have it over here. I'm going to put a knot in my floss. And for the entire project, you use 3 strands of floss. I sewed my beads on with 3 strands of floss. I sewed my buttons on with 3 strands of floss. And more than a straight stitch, I think I did more of a back stitch for this. But this is really easy to stitch on. Sometimes your needle doesn't want to go through that sticky, but it does pretty good. And it does get a little more sticky on it the more you go along. And with the back stitch, yeah. We'll do a couple more stem stitches, and this is just coming in here. Come off the line now. Be careful because sometimes your floss wraps around your heart. Try to bring this back where I went off. I went offline. That's good. And I actually stopped on the stem and did my lazy daisy stitches for the leaves as I went up, and that way you don't have as much floss wasted or, loop behind it. At this point, my needle's starting to get sticky. Okay, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to do lazy daisy. And if you think your needle gets too sticky, you can use like a small alcohol wipe or something, and that will remove the residue from your needle. but usually it doesn't get worse. You just notice it. Okay, so I've got my loop. I'm going to come up for my lazy daisy stitch. You can see I'm at the end of the design for the leaf. I'm going to come up through here. I'm not going to pull it extremely tight, and then I'm going to go back down. And that's my first lazy daisy for my leaf. So you continue doing all of this. You stitch. That's the first thing I did. I stitched all the stems and all the leaves. The lazy daisy for the flowers, the two lazy daisy flowers are exactly the same as I did with my leaf. These stitches are just long stitches. I'm going to, I guess I can do that in red. Yeah, I'll do a long stitch for you to show you how that goes, because that's okay. So for this long stitch, I'm just coming up in the center. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because the center part will actually be covered with a bead. Not with a bead, with a button. I was just thinking I need to get my beads. Okay. So I think maybe I don't want to use flat, because I'm going to use a red bead. Yeah. Okay. I went down with my long stitch. I've got two beads. I went down my long stitch. I'm going to come back up where my bead's supposed to be. And remember, I have 3 strands of floss. I'm going through my bead. And getting your bead through your needle with 5/8 seed bead is not really a problem. Almost all needles will take that, unless it's a very large tapestry needle. Okay, so I'm going straight back down. Oops, I got my green thread now. And with the red floss through the red bead, it looks really neat. And that's going to just be more of an accent for our background here with our. So we do all of those that way, and then we pick out the button we want, which the same size that it shows you, you can do. If you want to do a larger one, you just need to make sure that it doesn't, see this one will, I think this one would fit, but your beads are going to be at the very edge of your button without the straight stitches going out. And this one would probably be good also. Yeah, I like that one. So just pick which bead you want. And after you do the stamen and sew your beads on, and then this bead over here has nothing under it, so you can just do it originally. What else? The straight stitch. Now let me show you the straight stitch. With the straight, we have to do a red. Yeah, we need to do a red with the straight stitch, and that is, and I'm doing this on the heart. You can pin this if you want, and I would advise pinning it, because holding it to stitch, it could move, and you might not notice that until much later. So I'm just going to go through through making sure I've got this lined up with this and this lined up with this. I'm just going to go through the center here a couple of times. Okay. So for my straight stitch down here, I'm going to piece up here. And through the back. This is also a 3 strands. Hit the edge of my white heart. And that where my next dot is at the same distance from the edge. And this does look like a buttonhole stitch, but it's just a straight stitch. And this goes a lot faster than a buttonhole stitch. So we just do this all the way around. And as I missed in the first thing, we give ourselves just a small distance, just enough to get something in there to stuff it. But you can see, yeah, I like the red one too. And you see I'm not where I'm supposed to be. It's supposed to be evenly spaced, and you can really tell when you get through if you missed your space. But there's a couple of them that I noticed I didn't get exactly right. But that's just a straight stitch, and it just shows up in the back as like I'm moving from one to the other. Okay. I think my only thing where it wasn't as straight was once I got all the way around, it didn't come out evenly. But it really looks a lot neater if you mark your spots for your stitches. And I think that's everything that we do. You can't do this in a time period because you have to wait for your embroidery to dry from where you rinsed it. And then you also have to wait for your glue to dry with clips on it. But easily the handwork and everything takes maybe an hour, but you just have a space in there to let the wool dry after you've wet it, and then a space for the glue on your hanger, and then the glue with your scalloped hearts to dry. Otherwise, it's a fast project and it's a really nice Valentine gift. I hope you enjoyed it.